The Program for Instructional Effectiveness offers a variety of professional development opportunities, including workshops like today's, lectures, and book discussion groups. Our next event is scheduled for Friday, November 4. David Lorimore will discuss One More Time with Feeling, Cultivating Affective Student Responses. Today, I'm excited to welcome you to our first in-person event in 2 years, although it's a small crowd here, it's building up online. And Spencer Jardine will guide us in a workshop titled Strategies for Finding OER Materials. Spencer is an associate professor in the library, and he serves as the coordinator of instruction. He holds a Master of Library Science from the University of Iowa and an MA in Humanities from BYU. His main research interests are in teaching and higher education, both narratives and, as you might suspect, library instruction and information literacy. He has worked at ISU since 2007.
All right. Hey, thank you for attending today. I'm excited to be here. A little bit nervous. I often get nervous when I teach, but this is a new thing, even just to teach for Pi. So, one of the things I really enjoyed as a graduate student, I was able to work as a graduate assistant in the Center for Teaching and Learning at the University of Iowa. So I really have fond feelings for teaching and learning and for promoting learning in general. So because we have a small group, I'm interested in finding out what you are interested in and why you came to this workshop. If you would be willing to unmute yourself and let me know, I think that would be really nice.
Well, I'll start, and I am here, Spencer, to learn from you how to help others find OER, OAER resources through the library. Of course, I know a little bit about that, but I want to learn some more skills. I think there's always new tips and tricks, especially when we get into specific subject areas. So I'm excited to learn something new.
So yeah, my name is Ryan. I work in the ITRC as an instructional designer. Before I was a librarian, and I did a lot of OER work there at the College of Western Idaho. So here I'm really interested in seeing what I've noticed with OER is that there's a lot of different communities of practice that do things differently in different disciplines. My background's mostly in English and humanities. And so there's a lot of things about composition, fewer things about literature or film and things. But it's really interesting to see how different disciplines handle it. And so one thing I'd like to do is learn from all of you as researchers and instructors to see how you find things and what makes sense to you for findability and discoverability and use.
I can share really quick. Just kind of new to the world of open educational resources. So just kind of wanting to learn more how I can use them in not only my math class, but I'm also teaching some academic skills classes that I think would have some valuable resources. So excited to kind of really dive into that world for the first time.
Yeah, so I actually sit on the OER committee, and so I am invested to see what we can do to help spread the word and help adoption of OER material in courses, not only within the college that I work in, which is the College of Tech, but as well as in other colleges as well. So just here to learn and find some takeaways, see if it's something that I can incorporate in my own courses, as well as spread the word amongst my colleagues.
All right, I see that Matt posted in the chat. He says he's hoping to find resources for our students that keep the costs down. So that's fantastic.
Hi, Spencer and Ryan and everyone. I work at a different university, but I'm a student at ISU. I'm just hoping to learn more about how you all look for OER and always want to help reduce the costs for students. So thank you for letting us attend.
Yes, great. Hey, thank you for joining us today, Amy. It's so good to see you again. And then I see that Sarah posted in the chat, attending today from Boise State and a member of Amy's team. As a new hire, I am here to be a sponge and take in everything you are willing to share. You know, I think the open education requirement movement, this initiative, it involves lots of different people, and there's some people that are really quite passionate about it and have been involved in promoting it and making it other people aware of it, of course. And then there are some of us that are somewhat new to it, and there's a lot to learn, right? So Karen, Margaret, did you want to share why you're here today, or?
Sure. Well, I'm here with the Program for Instructional Effectiveness, but also I know with the movement at the state level to increase the use of OER and low-cost materials, I feel like it's really important to do so. And I've made efforts over the last few years to look for these sources, but don't frankly always find what I'm looking for. So I was hoping I might learn a little bit about better places to explore.
Great, thank you. Dr. Appleby?
Karen's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Spencer. Similar to Margaret, I've been involved in a lot of the conversations at the state level, and want to learn how to be more supportive at those levels for OER. And then also similar to Ryan, my background is in kinesiology, specifically sports psychology. And so as we were talking about, Spencer, when I came in, I don't know that there are as many resources. Perhaps there are, I just don't know where to find them for some more unique niche areas in relation to OER. So I'm excited to find out strategies to just find those resources in the discipline.
Yeah, great. All right, well, thank you so much for sharing. I think it's helpful for me to get to know people that are in attendance today and to help understand why you're here. What will we find? So OER is open educational resources. So let's take a look at this. There are different types of OER. You might find full courses that are under an open license. This might be referred to as open courseware. So you might find quizzes, syllabi, activities, maybe even assignment prompts. You could find a whole system of materials that you could just plug and play with. You just put it in your Moodle course, or maybe Canvas, or whatever LMS, learning management system you're using, and you could get running right away. And because depending on the license, much of the open educational resources, the licenses allow you to adapt and change and do that. So it lets you do that. So there are also open textbooks. So the textbooks, you know, with chapters and different things, those are kind of what's most common for OER when we think of that. So the third item we're calling ancillary materials. So you might find individual lesson plans, PowerPoint decks, study guides, worksheets, syllabi, games. So you might find interactive tutorials that you could use. You could even adapt it and change it so it matches your institution and your different, like we've got these library tutorials that years ago, people in, I think, Western or Eastern Michigan University, they had created this library tutorial. They put it under an open access license so that other libraries across the country could use it and adapt it. And so that's our research path is kind of a little bit based on a previous version of a tutorial created by another institution, right? So again, multimedia and images, of course, YouTube videos, you can use those and share those and play those in your classes, right? And if you're familiar with like Wikimedia Commons, it's a place where you can go and get free images, free pictures that you can use for pretty much any reason you want. They're often under open licenses. So you could even use them for commercial purposes if you'd like. So there's a whole assortment of different types of things that you can use. So when you're searching for OER material, you might want to watch out for low-cost add-ons. Sometimes you might find a textbook, and then you see that, well, they offer these quizzes, but you have to pay for those, right? So be aware that sometimes that's how it works. And I need to acknowledge that I'm using this presentation. It's one that a previous colleague of mine created, Kristen Whitman, who was here last year. She's quite an energetic advocate of OER, and so this presentation is adapted from her work. But as you can see, that those low-cost add-ons, they might actually help sustain the OER movement. You know, they might fund some of that so that we continue to get OER materials. But so, and then, like, I think she was providing an example of like a anatomy and physiology textbook, and you could pay this company who creates these interactive like images or different things where you get to look at anatomy more at a closer, you know, zoomed in level, right? And some of those things, the additional things, they would cost more money, right? So let's think about search hints and advice. I mean, I am a librarian, and as a librarian, I like to encourage good searching. And so what to know before you go. Let's take a look at some of these suggestions here. When you're looking at a database or a website, it's always good to look at the interface. What is it that it offers? Is there a browse function? Is there a search function? Do they have an advanced search? You know, so take a look at the interface. What does it offer? You might look at the about section to see that not only does this database offer like open education textbooks, but maybe it also offers cartridges that you can plug into Moodle that would help you integrate that textbook, and maybe it might include some quizzes that are already created. That would help save you a lot of time as an instructor, perhaps, right? So when you're starting your search, it's recommended that you start broad, then you can narrow your search as you go. It's good to brainstorm keywords. It's good to think of synonyms. An example from some searching that we've conducted, there is an information literacy textbook called Choosing and Using Sources. It does not come up under the search terms information literacy though, right? So you know, sometimes it pays, it saves you time. You can discover things you may not have discovered otherwise if you had taken a minute to think of different keywords to search with. So another recommendation is to browse by subject. We as librarians and anyone I think that search for OER, I think it's sometimes better to browse. Use the browse functionality. Sometimes the searching is imprecise. Let me look at my notes. Too many different material types. So if you're looking for textbooks, you know, if you want to just narrow down to just textbooks and browse the textbooks, that could save you lots of time, because there are so many things in some of the tools, and you could get lost in the weeds because there are syllabi and games and images and all handouts and all sorts of different things, right? So when you see a browse option, give it a try. So let's get ready to search. I'd like to give everybody 5 minutes to start on a worksheet. What I'd like to encourage you to do is to fill out the first part Part 1 of your handout. What kind of textbook are you interested in finding? Who's the target audience? Are there some traditional textbooks that you typically use for this class? And then start thinking of topics and keywords that you might search with. So thank you for working on that worksheet. Let's continue on, and we'll think about OER publishers. So here we've got some images of Colin Firth, the actor, and he's well known as the actor that played the Darcy character in the Pride and Prejudice, a 1995 version. He's also been in other films. So one thing to keep in mind with OER publishers is that you may see duplicates of lots of materials because of the nature of OER, where people can take and adapt and reuse information. You can even take it and post it on your own website without changing it. So you might find duplicates in lots of different places, right? So be aware that that's going to happen. So the same OER materials will appear in multiple search engines. We'll be talking about certain platforms that are really great for searching for OER. And even in those different platforms, you'll find the same things, right? So let's take a look here. These are some of the big names in the game for publishers. We've got OpenStax. They produce high quality textbooks. So again, OpenStax is a really good place to find a lot of undergraduate textbooks, like American government, biology 101, different kinds of things like that. Open SUNY, they're a textbook publishing group and OER advocates for the SUNY system. LibreTexts, publishing platform, open courses and textbooks, project of the U.S. Department of Education and UC Davis, and also Pressbooks. Pressbooks is a publishing platform. We actually provide access, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe Amy Vecchione could speak up to this, but I think other institutions provide access to Pressbooks across the state of Idaho. It might be supported by the state of Idaho. It's a place where if a professor wants to write their own book and make it free and available, Pressbooks it provides the software for creating that book. And it can be really useful. I know in the library, Kathy Gray, who is our ISU Idaho Falls librarian, she has created an information literacy textbook, and she published that and made it available through Pressbooks. So here, the next one, the last one is Lumen Learning, creates full courses under open licenses. So we'll be talking a bit more about some of those things. So let's see, we've got a chat. Oh yeah, Amy says, yes, I believe it is for all of Idaho institutions. Thank you, Amy. Ryan may be able to share more. Kathy's Pressbook is awesome. Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, fantastic, thank you. If you have any questions, please post those in chat, or you can unmute yourself and speak up if you'd like. If not, I'll keep going. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about some demos. Okay, so, all right, OpenStax. These are some notes when looking for textbooks and OpenStax. A small, high-quality, peer-reviewed collection of quality OER textbooks. So small you can only browse, not search. Mainly introductory courses, like I mentioned. So it's a great place to find a home run. If you're interested in incorporating that into your class, or if you're teaching a 100 or 1100 level class, chances are good you could find a textbook in OpenStax. So textbooks sometimes come with ancillary materials such as PowerPoint slide decks, study guides, quizzes, and syllabi. In addition to free ancillary materials, they may provide free cartridges for plug-and-play Moodle installation. So let's see what we've got on the next slide here. So this is what it might look like for anatomy and physiology. These are some cartridges. You notice that there are different learning management systems like Canvas and Moodle, Blackboard. So depending on the textbook, there may or may not be a cartridge available for the LMS that you're using as a professor. So I was looking at the American government one, and it didn't provide a cartridge for the Moodle, right? But it did for D2L, which is Desire to Learn, I think, and maybe Canvas or something, right? So it's dependent, it's different. So yeah, other notes, you will not be able to view the textbooks or ancillary materials until you get a free registration. And they do this because they don't want students to get access to the answers to questions and quizzes and whatnot. So it might take a day or two, but if you register, they'll verify, oh yes, Spencer is a professor, he's not a student, and we can give him access to those extra materials, right? You'll also want to evaluate the material before you share it with other people, if that's your job position. Low-cost courseware and add-ons are available. Some foreplay content partners are recommended by OpenStax as add-ons. An example is Visible Body as a 3D Anatomy Explorer tool. So I think I may have mentioned that previously, but okay. So let's take a quick look at OpenStax from the isu.edu website. You can go to quick links. You can go to the library, right? On our library homepage, we've got subject guides. If you go to the O's, you'll find OER, Open Educational Resources. We have an OER student advocacy page. If you're interested in seeing videos of Idaho State University students and how the costs of textbooks have impacted them and their education, we've got some fascinating videos that we recorded during the pandemic that you might be interested in. But let's go to this Open Educational Resources guide today. And I'm going to skip to this tab that says Find OER, Quick Start. One of the notes that I noticed on this, and I remember this, is that, you know, before you start looking for some of these things, like searching the OpenStax, it might not hurt to just do a Google search OER plus your discipline. So as you were working on the worksheet, I did this with OER kinesiology textbook. And so you see there's a link to OpenStax, Professor Resources, OER Commons Resources. There's kinesiology, Open Educational Resources. I clicked on that one. When I opened it, I found this page, Resources for Finding Open and Sustainable Teaching and Learning Materials. They've got links to Human Nutrition, Flexbook, LibreText, Merlot, OER. So they're kind of linking to the same things that we'll take a look at today. But down here, you can see courses and videos, exercising advocacy, some personal ideas and experiences. And you could take a look at some of these other things that they have. And some of these things look like they're more sports and psychology related. You might even consider doing a search, you know, I mean, OER and sports psychology, or whatever it is your discipline or your course name is. If it's a common course name in your discipline, maybe that would make sense, right? There could be other places that talk about that. All right, so let's take a quick look at OpenStax though. Here, like I was saying before, you can click on subjects or so we'll click on subjects, we'll click on all. These are peer-reviewed, openly licensed, 100% free. You can just browse through the whole thing, or if you're interested in looking at the humanities or social sciences, I help the political science department when I collect books for the library. So here's American Government. It's in its 3rd edition. You can see here that you can view this online. You can see the table of contents. It opens up in a new bar on the left, and you can go straight to a chapter if you want to get there fast. You can download the whole textbook as a PDF. You can order a print copy. I clicked on this earlier today, and it took me to Amazon, and it said I could print a copy of the textbook. They could print it for me and send it to me, and it would be like $20.99, $21, right? So that's cheaper than some textbooks, right? Some are 100 or 150. If the student doesn't have that money to pay for it, they can always read it on their device. They can read it on a computer. I think they can download the PDF and they can read it on a Kindle or whatever reading device they have, maybe even a tablet, right? Whatever it is you have, right? So it does show who wrote these, the contributing authors, and it lists some other things. It says it was last published July 28th, 2021, and so forth. It might be of interest to you if you're an instructor to look at the instructor resources here. And for those in the ITRC, I think you would be interested in looking at this as well, right? This is where you could log in to unlock the cartridge. So if an instructor asks for help, you might need to get access so you know how to help them to see what they have. But you can see that with this particular textbook, there's no Moodle cartridge, but there is the D2L and the Canvas cartridge for this, right? And I think they give instructions on how to download it and how to import it into your LMS, right? So you can see there are some other things: an instructor getting started guide, diversity and representation guidelines. So there's a bunch of different things coming soon. A key terms Quizlet. That sounds fun. So there are OER repositories, and these repositories, it might be a little bit too much. This is the Matthew McFadden and Performance of Darcy. Some people might think that his acting was a little too much, right? So some of the repositories might be like that. There's just so much content. So they might contain college level textbooks, user-friendly. Entries include chapter lists, book summaries, and reviews. Many books have multiple reviews from various faculty. OTN offers $200 micro grants to faculty to review a textbook. Reviews include names, positions, and university affiliations. So let's take a look at this. This is the Open Textbook Library. The University of Minnesota helps to support this from our guide here. So we've got Open Textbook Library. And you can browse subjects again. I think that is recommended in many cases. You can look at, maybe you're interested in student success, and you could just start browsing to see what they have here. Research methods. they do provide a search at the top. So if you're interested in the information literacy, take a look, you can search in their search bar and see what you can find. Here's one, the Information Literacy User's Guide, an open online textbook from 2014. And you can see that some of these have reviews. So when we click on this, you can see the table of contents, you can see the list of contributors, ancillary materials, information about the book, you can get access to a PDF, the ebook, the online versions. This might be really, this is one of the useful things about the open textbook or the open textbook library is that they do provide these reviews. So if you click review more, you can see this Darcy Adol provided a review in June of this year. You can see that this person was Director of Library and Media Services at Oregon Coast Community College. And so each of the reviews have these different categories: comprehensiveness, content accuracy, relevance, clarity, consistency, modularity, organization, interface, grammatical errors, and you get the point, right? So I think if you spend the time to write a review, I think they have provided small stipends of like $100 or $200 for you to provide a review, and it helps everybody else, you know, understand what you're looking at, right? So if you think that's useful, that could be a good thing to keep in mind. So when you're looking at this, you can see that it does provide a license. If you look at this, it says CC BY NCSA, right? Oftentimes they actually provide the link to that license. So here it is right here, conditions of use, attribution, non-commercial, share alike. If you want to know what that means, you could click on the link and it takes you to the creativecommons.org website, and it explains the license. It says, this is what you can do, this is what you cannot do with this type of license. So here, I think this page tells you all the different types of Creative Commons licenses, and you could review that if you're interested. Let's give you 6 to 8 minutes to do some searching. I'd like to invite you to explore some of those tools. You could explore the Open Textbook Library, or you could take a look at OpenStax. Or you could try one of those Google searches, the OER plus your discipline or course name, right? We've got a Google form that Ryan helped us create earlier this week. He's part of the library's Open and Affordable Educational Resources Committee. So we created this form in, it's this one, a tinyurl/OER suggested textbook. So if you go to that Google form, it allows you to enter in any textbooks that you found in today's workshop. And that way we could collaborate as a university, and the work that we do today might help somebody in a month or two who is also searching for OER. And I really like that idea, because I think that goes along with the spirit of OER, is that we share and we share alike, right? And make life easier for others, I hope. If I were to create a textbook, it could make that life easier for another person if I make that open and provided an open license. So thank you, Ryan, for helping us with that. So yeah, tinyurl.com/OER suggested textbook. So I think I put that in the chat. So one of the other places that you can go to search for OER is the OER Commons. It has a huge selection of materials. So talking about a repository, it's got so many different things. It can be hard to navigate because it's kind of unwieldy. There's just so much stuff in there. It contains K through 12 resources as well as college level resources. So you've got to be aware what you're looking at. You've got to take a closer look and look at the details. There are lots of different types, not just the textbooks. So like we've mentioned before, you could find course assignments, syllabi, lesson plans, lecture notes, study guides, even software. They even have games that you could play that are educational, right? I mean, it might not be something you want to play on Friday night, but who knows? So use the one suggestion when searching here is to use the advanced search or filters on the search results page to target resource types. Materials are less likely to have user reviews. Okay. So one thing to keep in mind, again, browse. If you browse the resources, that might be a good way to get going with this type of source. Use the filters to drill down into your search results. Yeah, I'm so glad that some of you are still sticking around. I know it's scheduled for an hour and a half, but if you need to go, you're welcome to take off to your next meeting if you need to do that. So let's take a look at the OER Commons real quick. I think I have that open here. This is another link that's on our Open Educational Resources webpage. So OER Commons, if you click on Discover and click on Resources, you can browse by subject. You can also browse by material type. So if you're interested in looking at lecture notes or lectures, at games, we've got 429 games, assessments, activities. You could take a look here and you can browse. Among the social sciences, you can limit to political science. And then here you can limit by education level. So if we limit to college, you could limit to college upper division. I'll limit to lower division. And here you can see this is a textbook we were looking at earlier, that American government one. So again, you might see the same thing in different places, right? You can limit by material type. Textbook is on here. It's clear at the end. It's alphabetized. So keep going if you're looking for textbooks, and you can find those listed here. So now we probably, I didn't pay attention to how many results we had previously, but now we've got 79. But I'm thinking we had hundreds, maybe thousands of results previously, right? So using these filters can be a good tool for you, especially if you don't know exactly what you're looking for. You might give the search box a try. I did information literacy earlier. I'm going to test it and see if it still applies the limiters. If it looks like it erased those limiters, so it would be a brand new search if you put that in the search box, right? So we've got 1,500 results, and similar to what we did just a minute ago, you can limit by education level or subject area. There's all different ways to limit. I don't know if there's a date limiter though. Sometimes that could be useful, but there is this sort by. You can sort by title, relevance, date added. So if you're really just interested in more current stuff, let's see, it says, yeah, this was uploaded just this month, October 4th, 2022. So that's pretty current. How interesting. So that's just a little bit about the OER Commons. There's a whole bunch of other stuff I haven't explored in here. I imagine if you sign in and register, you could probably save some of your searches so that you don't have to do the same search again and again. You can, and it records those steps for you. But, so let's take a look here. That was the OER Commons demo. There's another repository called Merlot. Community submitted materials, huge database. It's the Wild West. It's got so many different things. It could be difficult to search via keyword. So again, try using the browse functionality. This will show the entire collection, then apply search filters. Let's take a look at Merlot. Okay, here's the link to Merlot. It's on the tab. Dig deeper, right? So let's take a look at this. Here we've got Merlot, and again, you can put limits in all these different ways. It's really vast. Let's take a look at materials. You can browse using the filters on the left. You can browse by discipline. Again, if you limit to social sciences, you can limit to different things, maybe even peer reviews. Let's see if that limits it. So when it's peer reviews, then typically it should have different reviews by different people. But here, materials here, limit by political science. And you could limit by all these different types. There is tutorials, syllabi. See, we've got 2 syllabi, the Scottish Enlightenment and Friedrich Hayek on liberty. Okay. So there's quite a bit that you could look at. Here we've got psychology. When you click on these, it may or may not take you out of the repository, and it might direct you to the original platform where these materials are located. So you could take a look at some of those things. Let's go back here. So that was Merlot. Other things you might consider looking at. We've got the federated OER search. So some of these federated searches, they search multiple platforms, but the technology might be a little dated. It might be a little clunky, but similar to a previous Pride and Prejudice version, we respect our elders and we can enjoy and find good stuff there too. So Oasis is one of these federated searches of 97 different OER repositories. It contains many types of OER, textbooks, videos, podcasts, learning objects. Use the filter menu on search results page. Advanced search is a bit rudimentary. You can also browse OER by subject. So let's take a look at Oasis here. All right, this is what Oasis looks like. And if you look at OER by subject, you can limit to different disciplines: astronomy, chemistry, business, fine arts, humanities. Let's take another look at political science. And here you can limit by discipline. It's important to pay attention to these icons here. These icons can give you clues to what you're looking at. There is an icon legend here. So we've got a textbook, course icons, course materials, public domain book, modules, podcasts. So these different things can be useful here. So you've got different types here, subjects, you've got political science, sources, where it's coming from. These are different licenses. If you want to look at things that are in the public domain or attribution, non-commercial, you can take a look at those. So let's take a look. When we click on this, here it's taking us out of the out of Oasis, and it's taking us to the Yale website, where this introduction to political philosophy course is published. So you could download all course pages. You can click on the link, and you can take a look at this. So you've got a syllabus, you've got sessions, and so forth. Open Yale courses. In that Oasis, there's another place where you can find OER materials. Here we've got Mason OER Metafinder searches 21 OER repositories, include sometimes overlooked sources like Coty Trust, Internet Archive, New York Public Library digital collections. Stay vigilant for reuse guidelines. So you've got to be careful. Some things, because you want to be able to use things and stay within those license agreements, right? It's notable because it allows for searching full records for terms, whereas Oasis does not. If you're searching on a specific learning objective, that is more likely to be in the full text than in the title or abstract. We put in here American government. Let's see, we get the results keep counting up because it continues to find more and more as it's searching. And you can limit by these limiters on the left, source type, document type. So this is a source that if you're looking for something a little more specific, maybe that it would be helpful to search for something more specific. Like if you're looking for like constitutional law, you might find more specific stuff there. And besides just the introductory course material stuff, right? So you can take a look and do some searching there as well. Is anybody interested in sharing some things that they've found as they've done some searching today?
Well, I find it challenging.
You were chuckling over there.
I am, because I keep every system I use, and you said this, I come back to the same very small number of resources that are not very good.
Okay.
And so I just find it funny, they're listed in a bunch of different databases,
Yeah.
but it's the same source
Yeah.
when you get down to it. So I was really looking for a textbook for a course I teach in business communication.
Okay.
And I've been looking for years because these textbooks are often quite expensive. And there really isn't anything good right now that I could find today. The one that sort of seems most aligned, really, it's this huge, it looks like this huge book that's incredibly general, with maybe 1 or 2 sections that are actually related to an entire course that I'm teaching. And the examples aren't that great, and the explanations aren't very good. They just sort of hit almost like you want the speed version of a textbook. So I know this is an ongoing process, and there's a lot of room to go. But I think some fields may be better right now than others, and I have not yet found something that I could feel comfortable replacing my current textbook with.
Yeah, we're limited with what's out there, right?
Right. Someone's got to be willing to go, well, do you put all this work into something
Yeah,
that they're not going to get paid for,
Mhm.
yeah,
or paid really a small amount? And that's asking a lot.
that's
Uh,
asking a lot, yeah.
I was noticing on the plus side, however, I also did a little searching for like first year writing textbooks. And there's a guy who's in the field, been around for a long time and well respected, and had himself written a number of textbooks. And it looks like through the Colorado State, whichever is the one that has a lot of OER resources. I can't remember. University of Colorado or Colorado State, but one of them has a couple of his not brand new books, but a couple of his books that are not ancient,
Yeah.
that are now available as OER full. And these were originally published as books for sale.
Uh-huh.
And so, I mean, that was nice. They had a handful of things that were potentially usable,
And that was for introductory?
like for a first year writing course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we'll have to go look at that, but, that was sort of, here's this guy who's been around forever, probably an act of generosity to say, you can use these samples.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Karen, did you do some searching? Did you find some things?
I did. I actually found one book on, that's sort of an intro to sports psych book that
Oh.
looks pretty good. I recognize some of the authors. So I mean, it's a survey
Okay.
book, but it looks really good and very promising. And also I teach a research methods course, and there are some good research methods books that I found as well. So that's cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, that's fantastic.
Mhm.
And what was the first one? Sports psychology? or
Sport psychology.
Okay.
Mhm,
An
mhm.
introductory?
It was kind of an introductory sport and exercise psychology, which is nice to have the combination of the two. There's just one, at least when I looked at all the ones, there's just one, but it's there. So it would be neat. I teach both undergrad and grad. And so
Okay.
I could pull different chapters from the book to focus on
Oh, yeah.
in both classes, which would be really cool.
Nice.
Mhm.
Oh, it'd be fantastic. Did you take a look at the license?
I didn't. So that was a question I actually had,
Okay.
Spencer, is when you come across a resource on
Okay.
these, in these databases, I
Yeah,
mean, can you openly use them in any educational context, or what's the next step to determine how you can share that information?
well, you want to look for the license. Most of them should have a Creative Commons license.
Okay,
So, I just did a quick Google search for let's see. If we go to Creative Commons license definition, so about CC licenses, right? So here is a great page. It gives you the image. So oftentimes they'll have that image.
okay,
And so CC BY, it says this license allows reusers to distribute, remix, adapt, and build upon the material in any medium or format, so long as attribution is given to the creator. The license allows for commercial use, right? So that's a really open license, right? You just tell us that you borrowed this from someone else, and you can use it for any reason you want, right? You can remix, that means you can rewrite it, you can change it, right? But these other ones might be more restrictive, like the further down you go, like this one, it says CC BY NCSA. So credit must be given to the creator. Only non-commercial uses of the work are permitted. So for educational reasons, absolutely, go ahead and use it, right? Adaptations must be shared under the same terms, right? I mean, this person says, I went to all this work and I'm making it freely available to everybody else. I expect you to make your adaptations also available and free to other people, right?
Got it.
So,
I was just
Yeah.
looking at this, the book that I don't love.
okay.
But it's listed in OER Commons, and so I'm just looking, Karen, at my book, and it has the description, and then it has the little license and the thing. It has a little mark,
Oh, yes.
and when you hit that, it actually takes you and tells you, you are free to share, copy and redistribute material in any medium or format, adapt, remix, transform, and build on material.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Thank
it
you.
does all that. And so it's nice that you don't have to go back to like a key page, that it sends you directly to an explanation.
Yep. I
Yeah,
just-
they're live links typically. When they have this image, it's a live link back to Creative Commons that says, this is exactly what you can and cannot do.
Mhm.
I just found out the sports cycling is a CC BY. So it's got that really open,
Yeah,
it's got that
that's
open.
really open.
That's
Yeah.
really open.
And then you get the pop-ups asking you to contribute.
Fantastic.
It's
Well,
available.
very
Yeah, I
good.
know. Like, help this continue on. Right? Mona and Kristen, would you like to share? Did you find some textbooks or some materials that you would like to tell us about?
I kind of fell into a rabbit hole. I just kept finding more stuff, and then I would click in it and then look at it and be like, okay, I got to go look at this other stuff to see what it's like, what that's like. And so I found a lot of interesting titles and sources. And so I think it's just a matter of taking the time, and because you've given us, because I've been aware of OER Commons, and so that was kind of my go-to website to look for some open source resources. But now that you've given me all these other platforms to start looking at, I know that I'm going to be spending a lot of time and going down these rabbit holes and doing some comparisons and trying to figure out, ooh, is that going to work in my course, or is that going to work better in my course, or do I use both of them? Is that going to be too much? But so this is really exciting just to see that there is an abundance that is out there. It's just a matter of taking the time to put in the right keywords, search words, and making sure that you can find everything that you're looking for.
Yeah, and I think if you find a chapter in one book that you really like, maybe you can find a chapter in another book. And when we're talking about OER, our committee name is Open and Affordable Educational Resources. So the affordable piece could also include library resources. So it's possible in many cases that you could share an article, or you could share a chapter in a book, and you could get that copied as a PDF and share it with your class. Generally speaking, I'm not an attorney, so take this for what it's worth. I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm just saying that generally speaking, you can use a chapter, and that's okay within the copyright world, right? So
you can be really tricky and like find
yeah.
8 textbooks that you really like and take
And
one
one
chapter
chapter
from every single book.
That's right.
And it could be free for your students,
That's
right?
right.
I don't know if that's recommended,
Probably not, but,
but I mean, I think
like
it's a
avoiding
possibility.
the problem.
So yeah, but there are a lot of library resources that you could take advantage of. We do provide quite a few resources, and I think I think a lot of people aren't aware of just how much the library has to offer. One thing I should tell you before we finish, I know our time's coming up, and I appreciate you coming today. Thank you so much. But I think if you want to get help, if you want librarians to help you search for OER, on our landing page for the Open Educational Resources page, it says OER info request. You can enter your name, your email, what it is you're looking for. And you say, would you like a librarian to assist you with the search for OER on a specific topic? You can say yes or no. I don't know why you'd fill it out if you said no. But fill it out, say yes, and submit it. And we can send it to a librarian that's in charge of that discipline and the OER committee. And we can help you search for OER materials.
And where on the site is that?
So library homepage, go to subject guides, this tab. So we've got these five different tabs, subject guides. And in this drop down, it's the open educational resources. So yeah, it takes you to this page.
And then you get that. Oh, that's great. I didn't know that was
I
there.
didn't either.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for attending. Margaret, was there anything you wanted to say before we finish?
No,
Or-
I think we're good.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
all right. Well, thank you, everybody.